The teaching text today is Proverbs 6, 1 through 5. My son, if you have put up security for your neighbor, if you have shaken hands in pledge for a stranger, you have been trapped by what you said and snared by the words of your mouth. So do this, my son, to free yourself. Since you have fallen into your neighbor's hands, go to the point of exhaustion and give your neighbor no rest. Allow no sleep to your eyes, no slumber to your eyelids. Free yourself like a gazelle from the hand of the hunter, like a bird from the snare of the fowler. This is the word of the Lord. You may be seated.
Before we jump into the message, I want to just tell you about something coming up. I think it's important enough to pause and tell you about it. We're hosting a marriage seminar October 17th and 18th. Dr. Don Welch, 30 years as a marriage and family therapist. He's written a book called The Responsive Relationship. He's tying together attachment theory and all of the best and latest research on what makes a marriage work. And he's put it together with scriptural principles in a way that you can actually build skill and grow. And it is my hope that every married couple, seriously in dating, engaged, married couple, will take advantage of this. You can actually scan the QR code. There's a code right there where you can get it for half off, which means, here, stay with me, which means that for the price of going out for the night, you can go to this conference. It's a Friday evening, and then Saturday morning. Childcare is provided, so if you got kids, you don't have to figure out what to do with them. Childcare is provided. There's a breakfast on Saturday morning, a lunch on delicious food on Saturday. Now, there's a handful of you that you're like, sign me up. I'm all about that. There's a percentage of you that are, I don't even think so. And then there's a bunch of you right in the middle. So let me address those of you who are excited about it. You're already going to sign up. I'm not talking to you. Those of you, though, that are in the middle or you're not sure, let me give you some permission, because I know how these conversations go, because I am also married. And you go home, and then your spouse has an opinion, and you have an opinion, and they say this, and then you say that, and then it might turn into a fight. It might turn into a discussion. I don't know what it would turn into for you, but I want to give you permission. You can both say, well, the pastor said it would be good for us to go. So you can take apart the I think, you need, I don't need. Remove that stinger. You can go to this. This can improve your relationship. We're doing this in partnership with what's known as the Global Ministry Center, and we're doing this as a way to set up a model that we hope can be used in churches across North America. So I'm hoping we have a great showing for this. So if you have not yet, take advantage of that. I really think it'll be a benefit. We will be there. Andrea and I will be there. All the staff and our spouses, we will be there. And you're going to enjoy it, and you're going to be glad that you did it. Okay, commercial over. Ready? Starting a series today about the spirituality of what you own. The spirituality of what you own, called the cost of living. I understand when I immediately say that, most of us struggle to make that connection. We say things like, well, are you trying to say that my lawnmower is spiritual? And it doesn't quite jive. I understand as we get into this, some of you are going to hear this and you're going to go, you know what, I don't need this, I'm doing good, and this doesn't really apply to me. And if that is you, I want to say something specific to you before we jump in. This is a set of tools that you can take down and pass on to help someone else. What's needed is someone to help someone behind them who's struggling. Being a disciple of Jesus, the goal is not to arrive and have it all figured out. That is not the goal. If you thought that was the goal, that is not the goal. The goal of discipleship is that once you have arrived and figured out and gotten some maturity in some areas, you then pass it on. So what's needed is once you're doing well at something, help someone else. So as you're listening and you think, I got this down, take notes, figure out one younger person, different person that you could go, can I help you? I would love to. You want to ask questions? I'd love to help you. Again, most of us struggle to see the connection. We think that the things that we own, our resources, we would call it practical, the practical things. And so we've got the practical bucket. And then over here, we've got the spiritual bucket. Those, by the way, are categories that we've created. But we don't know how to cross them together. And we think, it's almost like, what does a hammer have to do with the Bible? What are you trying to say? How do those things relate? And for most of us, honestly, they don't. I want you to hear, though, what Jesus actually says, because Jesus has a different perspective and actually says that, no, the things you think are, here's the practical things of life, here's the spiritual side of life, are actually in the same basket. He has a very famous saying in Matthew chapter 6, verse 20. This is what it says from the words of Jesus. Where your treasure is, this is Jesus, there your heart will be also. Maybe a good translation of the word treasure there in context is stuff. Where your stuff is, where your resources are, there your heart will be also. So for us, stuff is in a basket over here, and our heart is in a basket over here. But Jesus says, oh, you don't understand. Actually, those are in the same basket. Here's the goal of the entire series, and especially today, is that you and I could have a heart at peace in God's kingdom. And so we're going to get at the things Jesus says cut into that peace. And a lot of it has to do with a misunderstanding on our part about our treasure, our stuff, the things we think are the practical things of life. Now, I want you to notice what Jesus does not say here. He does not say, where your heart is, there your treasure will be. That's how we think about it. This is how it goes. Well, I would really like to care about issues in my city, and I hear us talking about them all the time, and we're serving people all the time, and I'd really, I'm going to work on getting my heart in the place where I care about those things. So a couple weeks ago, maybe you went with us to the Habitat for Humanity build. I've got a picture here. They bought an entire street of homes that were dilapidated and boarded up. And so instead of building a house from scratch, they've remediated them all, and they're going through changing the layout, fixing the insulation, changing the outside. And it's really an amazing thing that they're doing. But here's how we think about it. We go, well, I'm going to get my heart. Maybe I'll go visit that. Maybe I'll go work there for a day. And then after I do that, then what will happen is my heart will move toward that. That's not what Jesus says. It's not where your heart is, there your treasure will be. It's where your treasure is, there your heart will be. So here's in the logic and wisdom of Jesus about our stuff. This is what Jesus would say. Well, if you actually want to care about that, figure out a way to fund that entire block. Guess what would happen if you or I figured out a way, personally, I'm going to fund the rehabbing of that entire block. You know what you did? You took your treasure and you put it there. You know what you're going to think about a lot now? All of a sudden, you're going to be wildly interested in Habitat for Humanity and that specific block. You're going to drive past it. You're going to go, ooh, right down there on that house. I hope they make that a different color. I don't like that color. But you're going to be way more interested in it. Why? Because you did what Jesus said. You put your treasure there and your heart followed along. This is the wisdom and brilliance of Jesus. So if this is what Jesus is saying we need to do about our stuff, it's worth pausing and examining the state of our heart via where our treasure is. Because if our heart is the place where we experience peace, then, according to Jesus, we need to figure out how to handle our treasure so that it moves us toward peace. We're going to practically and helpfully do that. And what we're going to do is basically this next 3 weeks, we're going to do an extended meditation on this. Now, you say, I don't know how to meditate. Well, I'll tell you what. If you can worry, you can meditate. You know what worrying is? You think about it. Like, oh no, what if that happens? What if this happens? That's meditating. If you can worry, then you can meditate, because meditate is doing that in the positive. So we're going to meditate, and we're going to think through, and we're going to tease out the implications, and we're going to make this practical and doable and helpful. Why? To move you and I in the direction of God's peace. Does anybody want more peace in their life? Just anybody? Just turn to your neighbor and say, I know you want more peace, and so do I. Just tell them that really quickly. Let me give you, if I could, what I think is the spirituality of our day around stuff. You read the Bible, what you find out is that the Bible has insight into all of these issues, and it's had it for a long, long time. Here's Proverbs 13:7. I think this is the spirituality of our day around stuff. One person pretends to be rich, yet has nothing. Another pretends to be poor, yet has great wealth. There it is, the first half. That's the spirituality of our culture with regard to stuff. One person pretends to be rich, yet has nothing. So here's what that means. The vast majority of people in our area have lots of stuff, but all of it is financed. So I did a little deep dive. Most people, 8 out of 10 people, did you know this? 15 to 20 million new cars are sold every year. I don't even understand the math on that. But 15 to 20 million new cars are purchased every year. Do you know how many of those are financed at the dealer? Meaning someone does not walk away owning that car. Over 80%. So if you're driving down the road and you're dissatisfied with the vehicle that you're driving and you're looking around at all those new really cool colors of car and you're like, wow, I'd really love to have that car. You just need to count to 10 and you need to be like, that one is financed, 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 and that one is financed. Now the other 2 are owned. But the rest of these, they're all financed. People have cars. People take vacations that they don't actually pay for, and they let the bank pay for them, and then they take 2 to 3 years to pay the bank back with interest. Homes, clothes, groceries. It's actually, in our culture, the rare person who actually owns anything. Where our lives are essentially owned by the bank. And here's the deal we've made. We've just said, well, this is the cost of living, and we accept it. So here's what I want to do today. I want to do two things to help you. Number one, I'm going to ask you to be angry. I'm going to try and make you angry. I don't normally try to make you angry in sermons. I'm going to do my best to just make you angry today in the message. And then I want to ask you to do something that's abnormal, because I want to suggest that what's normal is not working. This could be life-changing for you. Someone did a similar series of this a couple of years ago, and someone went through this, and they said, I took what you said, I applied it, it has changed my life. This was not someone young, so I want to suggest this could change your life. So I want to challenge you to get angry about the debt that you have, because it's suffocating you, and I want to help you actually do something about it, right? Here's the 3-part plan. We're going to talk today about how God wants you to change your lifestyle and eliminate all the debt in your life. How then God wants you to be an extravagant, generous person who meets needs, and then be the kind of person who pays yourself and your children and your children's children in the form of saving. Here's how Proverbs says it, Proverbs 13:22. A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children, which requires careful planning. Dave Ramsey said it like this. If you're a Dave Ramsey fan, if you live and give like no one else today, later you can live and give like no one else tomorrow. Here's what this is. This is a plan for peace. This is a plan for your own peace, the peace of your heart. Okay, remember that I want to make you angry, so I'm going to give you some facts to make you angry. You're welcome in advance. Here's some current facts about consumer debt in America. We've got a little graphic for you. Do you have any idea how much, this is just credit card debt. Car debt is actually $1.4 trillion. I looked it up. Americans today, we're talking just credit cards here, are carrying $1.21 trillion in credit card debt. In the pandemic, it was $770 billion. That was 5 years ago. So here's what that means. That's a big number. That means if you took dollar bills and you stacked them on top of each other, it would go around the earth about 3-point-something times, because it would be 80,000 miles. You would stack and you rate 80,000. Some of you are like, give me 1,000 miles worth of dollar bills and I will be fine, right? Some of you are. Here's another way to think about that. If you were alive when Jesus was born, we're coming up on the 2000th anniversary of the birth of the church, 2033. If you were alive when Jesus was born and you had a $1.21 trillion and you spent $1 million every single day since then, every day, $1 million every day, you would still have almost $500 billion to spend. You can do the math. I did it for you. I promise I did it twice. There are 636 million active credit cards in the United States. Did you know that that is not the population of the United States? Much lower. The average American has $6,492 in credit card debt. In Kansas, we're 34th in credit card debt, and the average Kansan carries around $6,600 in credit. The average American, not American household. So if there are 2 adults in your household, double that. The average Kansan has 3.5 credit cards, and the annual percentage rate on that credit card is 22.35%. Let's do some math, okay? Again, I'm just trying to make you angry. You're welcome in advance. So say you took that dollar amount, right, the $6,492, and you said, I'm going to make the minimum payment on that. It's going to take you 307 months. Okay, I've done a bunch of math. I did get a degree in theology. I did not get a degree in math, but I do have a calculator, okay? 307 months, divide that by 12. Guess how many years that is? 25.3 years. You take your average debt. I'm just going to make the minimum payment. You're going to be paying that for the next 25.3 years, and you're going to pay an additional $11,262.17. That means when you go buy a Starbucks and you put it on a credit card, your $8 Starbucks is really worth $45. How delicious was that? I know you think that's what it costs now. You're like, what? How much? Now, that's just consumer debt. Here's someone I follow, the Personal Finance Club. This is what they said. There are 3 kinds of people in this country: the haves, the have-nots, and have not paid for what they have. Now, a lot of us are stuck with this debt. It weighs on us. It's like an actual burden we carry around. And in the present moment, guess what? No peace. The present moment is a prison because we are enslaved. Now, why? It's Jesus' principle. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Well, why are you not feeling any peace? Because your heart is weighed down, because your treasure is in prison. I'll give you another principle from the Proverbs. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. Again, I'm just trying to make you angry. You're welcome. I'm going to give you a modern day illustration of this. So just take one of the big credit card companies, just Visa. All of this information I'm going to give you is publicly available. Last year, not over years, last year, Visa's revenue was about $36 billion, on which they made almost $20 billion in profit on people paying their credit card payments. I don't know if that makes you mad, but it makes me mad. I looked up, what does their C-suite make? They're all the executives, and I found a picture with about 25 people. And again, all publicly available information because they're a publicly traded company. They pay 6 of their top, just of that 20-some-odd C-suite picture that I saw, just 6 of their executives alone in compensation last year, $93 million. And if you were on their board, you made an average of $400,000 or $500,000 just for serving on their board, so they paid $4.3 million to their board. Okay, now, again, just trying to make you angry. Let's tie that to the 307, because this is where it all comes from. Tie that to the 307 months or the 25.3 years. How long would it take for that money to be paid off, for that to work, right? So that means that, let's round it up to 100 million, because that's, and again, we're talking maybe 7 executives now, and their board, $100 million last year. That means it would take 5,632 people paying for 25.3 years, or 142,489 years. Hello? I'm mad. I read that. I was mad. I was like, are you kidding me? I never want to use a credit card again. Are you kidding me? I'm funding that guy's yacht? Thought experiment for you. What would it be like to not have the debt you have? What would it feel like? Feel great, right? Here's how Joe Sangl, he wrote a book called I Was Broke, Now I'm Not. He said this about debt. He said, debt is the single greatest cause of stress and financial problems. Do you agree? He says, this was interesting. He said, I've never had a person say to me, Joe, I got a credit card. I ran up a huge balance on it, and all of my dreams have come true. So here's the question. The $1 million question, what links would you go to in order to eliminate your debt? I'm going to do we're going to do a little congregation participation here. Recent survey. 30% of people said they would sell an organ to get rid of debt. Okay, so can this side of the room, can you just stand up? I'm being serious here. I'm not joking, you know. You're like, is this metaphorical? No, stand up. Okay, so that would mean everybody here is willing to sell an organ. I don't know, maybe you are. I don't know. Have a seat. Thank you very much. And I know some of you are thinking, really? You can get by without an organ? You're like ready to Google, what organ can I live without to get out of debt? 38% of us would take part in a questionable health study. It's over a third. All the men, can all the men in the room stand? All the men? Maybe 55% of the room, right? Ish. So that would mean 55% of people would be willing to turn their lives into a full-time reality show in exchange for all your debt to be paid off. Everybody in here. Okay, men, you can sit down. Thank you. Well, scriptures, we read it this morning. I hope that you listened as Dwayne was reading that scripture from the Proverbs. It's just a simple debt reduction plan, and I want us to take a look at it. Let me read this to you again. Listen. Listen with the ears of your heart, your desire for peace. My son, if you put up security for your neighbor, in other words, if you have debt, if you've shaken hands and pledged for a stranger, been trapped by what you said, and snared by the words of your mouth, do this to free yourself. Go to the point of exhaustion and give your neighbor no rest. Come back to that in a second. Allow no sleep to your eyes, no slumber to your eyelids. In other words, get angry. And take that anger and use it to focus you on this problem in your life, and then be abnormal. Do things differently than you've been doing. And you're going to attack it, and you're going to eliminate it fast. So do this, my son, to free yourself. Since you've fallen into the neighbor's hands, go to the point of exhaustion. You might write that verse down. Or just on the side, if you're taking notes, write the word exhaustion and circle it and draw a line through it. This is what I'm going to have to do. It's like you're throwing yourself down on the ground. It conveys, I'm exhausted, but it also conveys humility. I'm ready to humble myself. Here's how the Message paraphrases that. Dear friends, if you've gone into hock, don't waste a minute. Get yourself out of that mess. So here's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to humble yourself. So you have to swallow your pride. Downgrade your lifestyle, sell stuff. It's humbling to climb out of debt. The first step, just like any issue in life, is admitting you have a problem and then committing to do something about it. So start right there. Then develop a frugal lifestyle. Okay, I'm going to figure out how to live differently. And then you're going to have to get off. Here's some Elizabethan English for you. Get off thy buttocks. You're welcome for that. Listen to the intensity of the words. You can read later in that verse in Proverbs chapter 6. How long will you lie there, you sluggard? When will you get up from your sleep? A little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come on you like a thief, and scarcity like an armed man. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do during this series. I'm going to ask you to make some commitments to help you win with money. Here's the first one. I'm going to put this on the screen. Can you say this out loud with me? These guys are coming to play, and they're going to be playing for a long time because I'm not even done, guys. Ready? Say this out loud with me. Ready? I commit to attack and pay off all my consumer debts. So one more time, out loud. I commit to attack and pay off all my consumer debt. Now, are you willing to commit to that? Here's a thought experiment from a friend of mine. He said, if you had Jesus, and Jesus were able to take Dave Ramsey and your grandma, and together they would form a committee to help you deal with your stuff. If they got together and they're like, okay, let's talk about this. Let's talk about how we're going to have an action plan for you. What do you think they say? Here's what I think they would say. I'm going to call it 8 steps to peace. If you're taking notes today, that's in there because this is the action you've got to take to move you toward peace. Doesn't matter if it takes you a month, 3 months, a year, 3 years. Doesn't matter. Just do them. Here we go. You ready? We're going to go through these fairly quickly. Number 1, stop going into debt. So they would take all of your credit cards that you're, paying that minimum payment on, and they would put them in the oven at 350 degrees or with a shredder, and they would cut all the credit cards up. And you have to commit to buying only things that you can actually afford. Save $1,000 fast. This is a principle from Dave Ramsey. And so what you do is you say, I'm going to get an emergency fund, then I'm going to set it aside. And when I have an emergency, that is going to be what I'm going to dip into. And you're going to build that over time. Third is tithe. Me, a person who gives. Dave Ramsey, your grandma Jesus would say, it's a terrible idea to say, I don't need God's help, so I'm going to pull back from being a person of generosity. And the reason you got into debt in the first place was God wasn't in control of your finances, and now you need him more involved than ever. Then, this is a Dave Ramsey principle, rank your debts from smallest to largest and pay the smallest one first using, he calls it the debt snowball. So say you've got all these debts, you take the littlest one, you make the minimum payments on all the rest of the payments, you make as much as you can on that smallest one. As soon as you pay that off, you take all the money you were paying there and you lump it to the next one, and then it just gets bigger, and the debt snowball happens. That's how it works. I'll show you, there's a debt snowball calculator page on Dave Ramsey's website you can get for free. And then the next thing that Jesus, your grandma, and Dave Ramsey would tell you to do is to create a monthly budget. In other words, you're just saying in advance where the money is going to go. A lot of you are just already good at this, right? Now, listen. Some of you don't do that, and I understand. And I want to say to you that the people who need to create a budget the most in the room are people who probably make more than $100,000 a year. Why? Because you get to that level and you go, it's all good, we got it. And you end up not being a steward because you're like, we're fine, we're good. So I just want to suggest that if you could create a monthly budget and you gave every dollar a name, that losing that extra $300 a month just frivolously to things, if you had a budget, it would mean an awful lot to someone who's trying to build a Habitat for Humanity home, someone in Malawi who needs a clean water well, and you could make that difference by having a budget. There's a great app called everydollar.com. These are resources. There's a lot of things out there that you can get, that you can use. Number 6, live on beans and rice. So Dave Ramsey says that if he was in debt, the only restaurant you'd ever catch him in is the one that he owned. So here's what you could do. Here's what you and I could do. Make a list of everything that's normal for people in Wichita with regard to paying things on credit, and just say, well, I'm not going to do that. Here's my list. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. And then go out and rebid everything. Go rebid your insurance and your cell phone and cable and homeowner's insurance, and find subscriptions and cut them out. Now, it may take you a while, but what if a month of phone calls saved you hundreds of dollars a month? I mean, that'd be worth it, right? Then 7 is get a hustle, so like a part-time job. What could you do that could earn yourself a little bit of side income? Again, you'd have to humble yourself, right? You're going to go to the point of exhaustion, the writer of Proverbs says, and you're going to free yourself. And then the last, you're going to pray for creativity and wisdom, because you're going to say, God, I need help. I need insight as to how to go about this. So I want to ask you again to commit. This is just a simple step. I know I went through that really fast. Went through these really quick. I understand that might be challenging, but I wanted you to write those down so you could walk out of here with a plan. And if you're already good at this, you have a plan you can help someone else with. One way, if you say, well, I'm overwhelmed by this, I don't know how I would do it, we offer this thing every so often called Financial Peace University that's coming up. I think we got a slide on the screen. We'll leave it up. We're here in just a minute, so at the end you can scan the QR code. It's happening here in just a few weeks, and walks you through how to do all of these steps and set you up for success. I know some of you have been through Financial Peace University. It's changed your life. It has changed everything for you. And so I want you to make that commitment right now. I commit to attack and pay off all my consumer debt. And then would you do this? Second commitment. Commit to be here for the next 2 weeks. We're going to talk about the spirituality of what you own, of your stuff. We're going to close here in just a second, but down front are all of these colored keys. I picked a green one. You have in your pocket a set of keys. What do your keys represent? Your keys represent access to all of the things in your life. And if you say, wherever you might be on the spectrum of this subject, we've talked about it. No shame. This is not shame. This is help. Wherever you might be, maybe you're doing fantastic. I thought it'd be great if we had a physical reminder every day. God, I give you full access to every part of my life. I am taking out of the bucket the things I think are the practical things of life, and I'm giving you access to all of my life. You have access. You have the key. And so I would encourage you, we're going to leave these up here every week, and I would encourage you to take one of these keys, to put it on your key ring, so every day when you look at it, you go, oh, yeah. God, you have access to everything about me. Not just my stuff, my heart, my mind, my emotions, my relationships, how I feel about people I need to forgive. God, you have access. I'm giving you access. I want your help. I want you to be in charge and be Lord. Teach me.